Hello and welcome back to Game Over Gerkinman. I'm Gerkinman and this is episode 2 of my playthrough of a Kameo Elements of Power for the Xbox 360. How is your day going? Is it good? I hope it's good. Well, let's just dive right into it now, shall we? So here we have a little, just a little cutscene to establish the Enchanted Kingdom, I think it's called. I don't remember. Basically, in the last episode, we stormed the bad guy's castle and failed because Kameo is arrogant and their powers aren't particularly great yet. But you went and did it anyway, and it didn't actually show you returning to here, the Enchanted Kingdom or whatever the fuck it's called. It didn't even show how you were saved and taken there. It just kind of is a thing that happened. So it's good that they establish it now that you're out of this witch's hut and you finish talking to this mystic. But this episode is actually going to be about something that bugs me. This game does it horribly. And that is tutorials. This game handles tutorials in the worst sort of way. So if you saw the last episode, you already know that I basically, through that episode, had to learn how to do the camera and jumping and attacking and all that stuff. Like, the game forced me to learn that through gameplay, although it did have little element tutorial things come up on the bottom of the screen. It kind of threw me in the deep end and forced me to learn the mechanics of the game on the fly as I was playing it. And that's why that opening part of the game is quite difficult compared to the rest of the game. I think the rest of the game is actually really, really easy. But what happens here is we go and talk to this really ugly looking mystic fish man thing, and he's actually going to sit us through one of the most benign and dumb tutorials of any game ever. So keep in mind, at this point we already know how to use the camera, we already know how to do all this stuff, and to prove that we're a worthy warrior, we have to show this guy that we can turn the camera and all this sort of stuff. It's bizarre. So I get the feeling that this was originally supposed to be the beginning of the game, and this is ties in with what I was saying last time, that I think the opening was added to the front later on. I don't think that generally in a game you would have a sequence like that and then a tutorial after, because that's kind of self-defeating, because at that point you've already learned everything. So yeah, really, we're 32 minutes into the game, and now it's trying to teach us how to use the camera by looking at things. It doesn't make sense, and it's certainly not good game design. I'm pretty sure that if someone's gotten this far in the game already, they have a pretty good understanding of how the game's camera works. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened here when they were working on it, like why this is the way they went. It also really brings the game to a halt. You know, you've got this massive action opening and you're ready to get into your adventure, and it's like, no, you have to stop and learn how to do all these basic skills that you've already learned. It's just, yeah, I don't understand what Rare was thinking. I also don't understand why this guy's making me kick him.
One kick a day is more than enough for me.
That's very strange. This is one thing it does teach you, is about money and runes, but I mean, anyone who's ever played a video game knows how to use money and that you can spend it at stores. I don't remember actually buying anything from any stores, actually. I certainly haven't in the playthrough yet. I've recorded a few episodes, but I haven't actually come across any stores yet or spent any money. So I guess, yeah, that's a bit weird actually. I never really thought about that. Even this guy's had enough. He's like, okay, the character knows how to use the camera and do the basic stuff. But this sums up one of the biggest problems with the game, and that's that it's super, super talky. I think it's supposed to be like character building or world building, but it ends up just being mostly superfluous. It's exposition of the worst kind. Like, this is a really, really boring way of telling people the history of the elements of power and that sort of thing. Like, this is the worst way I can think of to help people like learn this. If I was designing the game personally, I'd have him floating along beside me, and while I'm running around, and he could tell me this stuff while I'm running around the game world. That's one way to like save this sort of really boring stuff. Perhaps a cutscene, like an actual like animated cutscene, because he's talking about a pretty big thing. I'm guessing that's why they didn't animate it, because that would have been too much work, but a cutscene would have been preferable. But really, I think this is something that he could have explained to us while we were running around in the game's environment. And that would have saved us 2 minutes of him just floating there talking to us without lip sync. It's just a really, really rough way to like start the game, I gotta say. And once you've done all that, do you get to start your adventure yet? No, you have to go and talk to the Mystic again, the lady who wasted like 3 minutes of our time in the last episode, just prattling on and on. It's just, yeah. I'm not saying that the game's bad, because I don't think it is. I'm a lot further into it now, and it's definitely not a bad game. It's an interesting game, and it's a fun game. It has a lot of problems, but it's not a bad game. But stuff like this is bad game design. Oh, sick burn. Some very awkward attempts at comedy in here as well, which are just...
It's a crystal eye. I've already used it.
The lip sync. Oh god, this is just really hard to sit through, and I'm really sorry that everyone has to sit through this. I could have edited this out, but then you wouldn't learn anything. You wouldn't get the full experience. I do like the way her hands look, though. The scales on her hands look quite good. She reminds me a lot of the T-Rex out of Star Fox Adventures. The King Scaly, or whatever his name is.
I heard legends of the shadow trolls, but why do you keep mentioning these elemental sprites?
Exposition time again. Just very front-loaded with exposition of the most drab and boring kind.
It was damaged. The book could no longer.
All this stuff could have been explained in-game in a much more practical and less time-consuming way than just watching these characters do these same 3D these same little animated loops over and over again with no lip sync over the top. It's just... I guess like this was a style at the time when the game came out. This was just how things tended to be done. It's just going back to it now. It's pretty hard to get into. Thankfully, it's mostly at the beginning. There's less of this as the game progresses, which is a great thing. I guess a lot of games front-load information like that, but it's
Show me what you can of these things.
it's pretty rough. And Kameo's voice acting's pretty damn rough. And just a little thing teaching you about the shadow trolls, which are these guys who've like taken all of your powers. Except for some, there are some powers that they don't show there for reasons that'll we'll get into in a few episodes, but I think it's funny how a lot of those cutscenes are actually just like still pictures with like a little bit of an effect over the top. It's an interesting way of going about it. I'm guessing they did it to save money. But yeah, awkward, super awkward. But we're going to go off and fight our first shadow troll now and get our first our first element of power, our first elemental sprite. Thankfully, this one's in town because that's a really good place to hide things. Makes absolutely no sense at all. I'm impressed by the amount of grass on the screen here, though. This is another annoying thing. You'll see down in there in the bottom right that there's the old man with a bunch of question marks. He wants you to continually press pause so he can tell you what to do next. It's like either just tell me and have him talk, or don't have him say anything at all, because it's just frustrating having him constantly saying, I got something to tell you. You should totally click the button and find out what it is I have to say. No, this is our next boss fight, I guess. It's pretty hard to call a boss because it's very, very easy, but that's how we get our first elemental power, which is a Pummel weed. Shadow trolls are not formidable enemies at all. So basically we need to get some light energy and throw it at this guy so we can get our powers back. These all play out pretty much the same. You'll have these like white troll skeletons come up. All you have to do is basically kill it, and then you can absorb its power and then throw it back at it. And for some reason I continually kicked, it worked fine with this guy, I just kicked him while I was white. But it's much easier just to throw the energy back at him, which I worked out with the next elemental power that I got. But you'll see that he's a little baby here, and this is something that ties into the original GameCube game. Originally, you caught them much like Pokemon in their lowest form, and through use, they actually leveled up into their more powerful forms. Whereas in this game, it's literally, as soon as you catch them, they kind of like grow to maturity. They cut all that stuff out, so I don't know why they bothered having the little babies in there in the first place, because really, outside of the cutscenes, they don't serve any sort of purpose. They just sit here with this weird cell shading rendering, and then become adults while you watch this little cutscene thing here. They literally serve absolutely no purposes as children. Very, very bizarre choice. I do quite like the design of Pummel though. He's a pretty interesting character. Fresh take on the Venus flytrap. And of course, Pummel is one of the ones that we had at the beginning of the game. The game explaining to me how to move the cursor around, you know, like even kids can work that stuff out. You can work out this stuff purely by like virtue of what you've already learned just playing the 3D parts of the game. The stick moves things. If you can't work that out, you probably shouldn't be playing video games. Oh, as well as that, you've also got little upgrades for the characters here, so you can teach them specific moves and that sort of thing, which is one of the elements left of the game when it was a bit more Pokemon-y, I suppose. But here we go, that magically just teleports us back into the Enchanted Kingdom, and that's pretty much the end of the episode. Thank you for joining me. Next time I'm going to go and get another elemental sprite. We're going to go and get the character Rubble, who is a Polyrox and brand new, so I hope you'll join me for that.